inflation, an end to where Americans are living hand to mouth and paycheck to paycheck, an end whereby we feel as if we're being invaded by other people that's not part of the American scene being forced upon us. We're talking about a populist movement that is saying that things are not only going to change, but things are going to change for the better because it's a new time, and it's not a time uh, uh, to get involved in any longer in petty conflicts and hostility. So, Voy, what you have, you are the voice of reason. You know, when people talk to me about you, and I say, yes, he's my friend, and I go on to say that not only is he the voice of reason, but you're the voice of Haiti. You're the voice of the Caribbean. You're the voice of the global South. You're the voice of the underclass who's trying to create the dynamic of a new society. And so that's a beautiful thing. Sorry that I was a little late, but
Oh, you're good. You're good.
well,
I was running late too.
but one
We're
thing
ready for you.
about Orlando is that we do have something called the 407, and we have the
Traffic.
I-4.
Traffic.
And when I moved here from the Chicago area,
How long you been in
I've been
Orlando?
here for about 20 years now.
Oh, okay. Traffic got worse, actually.
It did get worse. It got worse. But even at that time, I said if I knew it was so bad, I could have stayed in Chicago for this.
Oh my God.
But I'm glad that we're here. But a lot of things are taking place in the news right now.
There's a lot of the news cycle, but I'm still, after almost a month, how people still bitter about this election.
Well, the people. It's interesting to me.
Yeah.
The ones who are bitter the most seems to be are people who look like us.
Why? I don't understand.
I mean, like,
it's just because they feel like they lost their agenda, they lost their
They did not-
movement.
they
or
did not-
just-
they didn't understand that the Democrats and the others who were pushing an agenda, it was a game for them. All right. It was a game that said, listen, if I can say something long enough and have people to follow it, I can get what I want. But now, since they didn't get what they want, guess what? Their language has changed. Prior to the election, everyone was talking about, oh, wow, Mr. Trump is a new Hitler. You don't hear that term any longer unless it's coming out of a black mouth. You see, it's very interesting. Or maybe some woman's mouth that's kind of on the edge. Then you used to talk about, oh, this is a fascist state. That language is not there any longer unless it's coming from one of our own. The whole the concept, well, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to leave. It's just a handful of people. And
they're lying.
They're not. They're lying.
This is manipulative.
But we didn't understand that this thing for them was a game. So therefore, we're hurt. When people believe, it's like someone who falls in love, right? And when they really believe that person loves them back, then it breaks. They're heartbroken. So so most of our people are heartbroken because they believed that the Democratic Party loved them, that they were in bed with them, and they had a cozy relationship that was going to last forever. Now they've been, like Malcolm stated, they've been bamboozled. They've been led astray.
But shouldn't that wake him up? Because there's a lot we're going to get to some stuff. A lot is coming out of Kamala camp right now. How certain black was mistreated in their camp. How they were not being their agenda was not being putting forward. How there was so much disagreement into the camp. To realize for African American how the Democrat Party, with the help of the pastors, black pastors around here and around the country, how we've been manipulating people.
Well,
is that the sentiment that they feel right now?
I believe so.
That's why a lot of them is just a lot of anger. So what about all that joy? I mean, the people will actually go to church every Sunday, or if they're Seventh-day Adventists, or pray to God. So all this,
Yeah.
And you look at how America changed, and I look at President Trump went down to Wall Street, opened the Bell New York Stock Exchange. how some of these people, corporation, feel like we so happy that you are the president, that how we got back on track. They just a happiness. Let's make money. Let's make this country forward. And if it was the other side of it, you would not see this. What would you see is the LBGT movement. So be so happy.
Yeah.
Is the transformation of children, is all this nonsense. And that's where they were pushing that agenda. Now they feel like they had lost. And I'm wondering, it was the abortion issue that the women, I mean, to folks that's listening to us out there, even though we have people in our audience who's still bitter, and I want to hear from you. And the phone line is open.
Yeah. I mean,
407-894-1680. The phone line is open to you. 407-894-1680. When are you going to come out of your bitterness?
they're not going to come out because right now they found out that the Democratic Party used them as a mule. And what do you use a mule for? To carry heavy bags, heavy luggage. And a mule is dumb. You just tell a mule where to go and it follows you. Sometimes it's stubborn, but you got to kick the mule in the backside. And they found out that the African American community, that the Democrats used the African American community, used the Black community in the diaspora, used certain whites, used certain groups as their mule. And when they are not needed anymore, they say, go away, we don't need you. And that's what has happened. Now, for those people who are crying about, oh, wow, it was dissension within the camp, well, that's your own fault, because they could have had, they should have had enough sense to say something about it at that time, and bring it into tuition. But they didn't, because they were, again, a mule. They like being a mule, you see. And now what's also happening is that their money base has dried up. You see, when the mule,
but you look at it, and in history, within 107 days, this is the first time a candidate raised so much money in that short period of time. So they didn't have any money problem.
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, they were able to achieve all their crazy agendas, all their focus group, what they was be able there to put, but it seemed like there was not enough coordination. I'm listening to Justin Trudeau, who say, "Well, we should have elect a woman for president." This is not Canada, and Trump was right to say, you know something, with all billions, Canada should be the next state. And then I see the liberal media take that out of context.
Yeah.
So, and that's, you're costing us so much money. You should be the next state, and I think that was great. And this is the kind of sense of humor, because like I said, we're approaching another holiday, and it's time to family come to recoup and whatever your belief is. And I hope some of our Black pastors out there who were so hateful, so vitriol towards President Trump could stand up in their congregation. I know a lot of Christians listening to the station, a lot of Christian program, and I know majority of them is Democrat. And I hope you guys preach a unity message, because it's time to reflect and understand how the world could be so manipulative. And I have an update on COVID from a country, Slovakia, and it's very scary. And so go ahead, Dr. White, and we'll move on to something else.
Well, you're talking about the ministers. They're not going to change their theology unless they change their lying ways.
But they can't stay so hateful and trying to preach the word of God.
Well, we have to understand they weren't preaching the word of God. They was preaching a theology of the Democratic Party. And they turned Biden into their savior. So therefore, when their savior died, they don't have nothing else to have. They don't have. They can't say anything else. So they have to go back to the drawing board and follow the concept that our religion, the Black theology, is a theology of liberation that speaks the truth at all times. and it's designed to help the people, not designed to help a party, not designed to help a person who manipulates the largest segment of the population. If they don't want to do that, but they're going to go to hell with Biden and his crew. That's all to it. You see, what makes us different is that we have a strong foundation of decency, of reliability, of speaking the truth, regardless to what people like or not. They don't have that. They're not rooted. They don't have that pillar like we have. And that's why our voice, and that's why the populist movement is going to continue with this. And that's why Trump, when he was just in Rome, right? He was in Rome.
Yeah.
And you saw all the people surrounding him. I mean, they acted like
These people was hungry for leadership.
Yeah,
they were hungry for
even
the American leadership too.
You saw the bishops and the cardinals going after him. And so, I mean, you had leaders from all over the world fighting to shake his hands. Even Biden's wife was there, and she is giving him a good eye. You saw that she was looking at him like in admiration. Wow, that's a real man.
No, I don't think
that's a real man.
No, Dr. Wright, I didn't look at it like this.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. When I look at that picture and I look at the video,
you know how a woman looks.
I say, know something? Jill is so happy right now that Kamala Harris is not in that position.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Jill is so happy. It was like, a damn to your Democrat. This is how you do to my husband.
Yeah.
Comma is a bitch.
Jill.
Yeah, I think that's what I read into it.
Well, Jill and Biden turned their backs on Harris and her husband the other night.
I mean, you could see the fiction. In the room towards that, and then, and Biden is in old school. When I say old school, as a matter of fact, Biden used to mentor one of the senators that was very in the South. I forgot his name. Bird.
He's a KKK member.
Yeah, and Biden, that was his mentor, his good. And when he got in the Senate.
Yeah.
So Biden is that Dixiecrat, Democrat. That's never changed.
It has never changed.
Okay, no matter how they try to portray this man, that's who he is.
Yeah.
And he actually showed that.
Yeah. I mean, in the state where he is the senator, I mean, it had one of the highest levels of violence against African Americans in the country. For a state that small, Delaware. I mean, I lived in Delaware. The KKK was still happening in places as Seaford and Dover, Delaware, and Wilmington. And he was over that state. He never said a mumbling word. If anything, he tried to put more and more brothers in jail.
Okay, we got Dan Newland, who's great attorney, is also liability attorney. Was one of in Orlando. Has been selected to be the ambassador for Colombia. There was an op-ed in I guess in the Washington Post that Donald Trump keeps selecting people out of Florida. So his whole team is a Floridian nomination. So congratulations to Dan Newland, who's going to be the new ambassador to Colombia. I'm pretty sure Dan got he did a fundraising for Donald Trump a couple months ago.
But people may think that assignment that Trump has given him to Colombia is going to be easy. That's a tough place, Colombia.
Okay.
I mean, you have, for example, you have organized crime and armed groups that's running rampant in the country. You have social inequality that's there. You have over 300,000 people who are displaced. They're having issues of environmental problems and deforestation, human rights abuses against a large segment of the people, which are Afro-Colombians. I mean, remember, their vice president is a Afro-Latino. And she's smart. She's not like Harris. She's a smart lady. What is her name? I think her name is Marquise, Francia Marquise. I mean, her daddy was a miner. She's an agriculturalist who ultimately went to law school. The point is that that's a tough assignment for Dan Newman, and so hopefully that he'll be able to do it, because also right there, Colombia has a little shuffle thing going on with Venezuela, and the United States really wants to overthrow Venezuela. So we have he has a tough time to create the American policy that Mr. Trump may want. It's tough. I don't know how well he knows Latin America. I don't know how well he knows geopolitical issues, but it's going to be a tough time.
Tough time. Carrie Lake, who was the candidate for the Senate, Trump appointed her to be the voice of America, and she was a TV anchor, news
Yeah,
in Arizona.
that's tough also, because I was on Voice of America a few months ago, and
Because for the last 4 years, I did my little research. This part of that leadership, lead the voice of America, has not been a voice. It's all just been focused to one point. Is like I say, they were focusing a lot to the LGBT community. And this is going to bring some changes. I mean, this is how dramatic this thing's going to change. So tell me about that role, that leadership.
Well, in Africa, especially, and throughout the global South, under the Biden administration, you're right, it has been nothing more than an organization to push a transgender LGBTQ agenda on the third world. And so Africa, from Uganda right on down to South Africa, from South Africa all the way to Egypt, they have rejected all of that. By rejecting it, they have also allowed the Chinese, as well as the Russians and even India, to make a foundation within the country. So now what's going to take place is that she is going to have to create a dialogue that says to the global South, not to the EU so much, but to the global South, that the United States is viable, that the United States wants to be your friend. We don't want to take over your country and control your resources, and that the United States under Trump is going to be much more of a friend and a buddy in relationships, as opposed to being domineering and pushing our agenda. That's going to be her role. And because the majority of the people who work for Voice of America, again, are people of the global South. I mean, you go to their offices in Washington, it looks like you just hit the United Nations minus Europe. That's what it looks like. So you had the Voices of America in the Caribbean, Voices of America in South America, Voices of America in Africa, and of course, Voices of America in the EU. But she has a tough, to be honest with you, all of them are going to have a tough time, because they're going to have to rewrite and change the policies that Biden has put in place. I mean,
and which has been very, I mean, I don't care what you believe is, but some of the stuff it has to have some sense, man. And the direction, I guess, God didn't want us to go in that direction. I don't care what your belief is, because it's just the fact that is some of the stuff that's coming out and the way people feel, it was a lot of nonsense.
I mean, he slept on the job. Biden was in Angola the other day, right? And he was
it's like I'm ready to leave.
The guy was sleeping. The guy was snoring.
Hey, given $1 billion, hey.
I was talking to someone who was there from Tanzania the other night, and he was telling me, the guy was snoring in front of the leadership of 56 countries.
He just doesn't have the energy, and I guess he's ready to go. He's ready to say, "Hey, listen, I'm just ready to go to the beach and relax."
He represents what America has been in the last 4 years: asleep.
Yep, that's exactly.
So that's what has been happening.
And and this is the kind of leadership that people wanted to bring. I mean, what does that say about us? We're not sleeping at the wheel.
I think that what it's saying is that we have allowed the media. The media is not us. We're the good people. But the media has been nothing more than an arm of the government to push their narrative. But now, since we have another thing, it's like new medicine is going to come. It's like a wake up pill is taking place. It's like we're at the wheel now. We're ready to go.
Go.
Amelia's back.
Amania's back. Amania.
Amelia's back.
Hi.
Amelia's back.
So, hello, Dr. White. How are
Hello.
you?
Fine.
I
Good
see
seeing
you've
you.
been being busy. I noticed some things in our group chat there. So I see you've been very
Yeah,
busy.
we're gonna talk about that. I know.
Yeah.
But to your point, Dr. White, I don't know if you gentlemen saw, but the great Carrie Lake has been appointed to a new position in the Trump administration.
Yeah, that's
She
what we
is
just
going
talked
to be
about.
the
Yeah.
voice of the media worldwide representing America. I mean, that's better than the press secretary. She's the face of America across the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's the right person for that job. She's
I
absolutely
agree. She
she's the
she
right person.
absolutely is. She
She's
absolutely is.
Dr. White, before I move on to something else, I'm gonna move on to the Christopher Wray, who's resigned as the FBI, and also the FAA secretary is also going to resign before Donald Trump take office, and we're going to talk about how uh, Biden, I think was it yesterday, pardoned about 1,500 people, and there's a preemptive pardon that Bill Clinton is asking for Hillary Clinton. And on that list, there's Dr. Forsey, Adam Schiff, who was the chairman of the Judicial Committee under Biden administration, and Democrat Representative Bernie Thompson said he would accept a preemptive pardon from Biden. He was the chairman of the J6 committee. My question to you guys and to the audience, to all the Democrats out there who was cheering up, would love to see 34 count, 34 indictment with all these cases that was going on. And I have a simple question to ask. Director of the FBI who raided the president in Mar-a-Lago, if he feel, and he's already having attorney and his name is on the list to also to be pardoned, and President Biden said he's going to do more. Trump could have do that in his first term and did not do that. On a recent interview on MSNBC, he said, "I don't do nothing wrong, so I don't need no pardon from Biden." He kept his conviction. So to all my liberal friends out there, when you listen to this, to name is being sent to the White House for preemptive pardon, what do you make out of that?
Well, first of all, they are afraid,
Especially the FBI. I think he's resigned yesterday.
Yeah, that Trump would do to them what they would do to Trump.
What do they say about their party? I mean, do they now realize?
I mean, what it says about
Guilt
their
is
party
sin?
is that their party is a bully party. All right, it's going to bully their interest, and if they can't get their way, they're going to look for shelter. You're absolutely right. Mr. Trump could have done a lot of bad things to people when he was in the president seat earlier, but he didn't. He's a bigger man than that. He's more concerned about rebuilding America, keeping his legacy, and doing something that is special. He's not a petty man, but they continuously try to turn him into a boogeyman, and that's what their politics is. It's all boogeyman, scary.
But they know they were opening the Pandora box.
I mean,
when they engage in this lawfare, when they engage in this political persecution, when they engage, I'm listening to Eric Adams out of New York. I think he's a Republican.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy, he's just turning the Democrat. And I have an audio later on I'll play. But Eric Adams said, yeah, they weaponized the justice system. They came after me because I said something, and he realized that
New York is going broke.
And New York is going broke. I mean, he's speaking out.
Yeah, so what's so interesting is that they think that if they get a pardon, that they're completely saved. They can still be going. Somebody can go after them in a civil court. You see, they think in criminality, but there's another way to go after them. You see, but Trump is not going to do that. The issue is dead.
I don't think so. I think Cash Patel and Pam Bundy is going to target some. I mean, it needs to be exposed, and especially today, the latest that came out in the IG report, which is the Inspector General report, that there were undercover FBI engaging in J6.
Of course.
Okay, that's the government Inspector General report.
I mean, sadly, that has always been the case with the FBI from the very conception of the organization when it was called the Federal Bureau. They're always engaged in underhanded techniques. They're always engaged in filtering their agents within organizations to cause disruption. We saw that with the Black movement. We saw that with the Latino movement. We saw it with so many. So it's just a part of what they do. However, does it make it right? No, it doesn't.
They infiltrated, but throughout the history, is always do that.
Yes.
You look at the assassination of Malcolm X. You look at assassination of even this guy Deanna's deadbed out of Boston a couple of years ago, who said, "Well, Bob Marley was assassinated."
Oh yeah. I mean, remember, there's something that they used to put out called the Counterintelligence Program, called for short COINTELPRO Files, and it was designed by Edgar Hoover in the early 1960s. That is still their script of how to undermine organizations and people. And that is the basic idea is that they must prevent the rise, what they call it, of a messiah. Now, what is a messiah? A messiah is someone who can organize and get people together under one umbrella. That messiah could be almost anyone that can organize. So therefore, they focus on dissension. So therefore, they had to get Trump because to him, he was a messiah. Another time, Martin Luther King, he was the messiah. Before another time, Malcolm X, so forth. So the only way you're going to change that, I believe, is that ultimately that the FBI is going to have to be rehauled, maybe even destroyed to be rebuilt in a way so that it can be more productive for the American people. Because after they went after Trump, which he's cut,
and that's
go
what,
after us.
That's what Donald Trump was saying. And Amani, I want to listen to this. He said, if they come after me,
they come after us.
They come after us. They're gonna do that to you. So if they engage in that kind of practice, okay, if they engage in that kind of practice, what make you think locally they're not gonna do the same thing? Let's say you're running for sheriff. John Mena could send his people after you.
Yeah.
Send the thing. So this thing got to stop. And the Democrat, they opened the Pandora box.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm glad about Trump is that he highlighted this contradiction. I like to say that I was Trump before Trump. I know how it feels when people
because you
organizations come after you because they're unrelenting and they would try to destroy you, your household, everything about you. I live that. So now perhaps we have someone there that would change this whole dynamic and this whole culture.
And that's what a lot of people went and support him and voted, and they seen that. But when, and my argument to some of my, I'm glad I missed Johnny, because it's like, if all these people now, they want to be pardoned, okay, why? What did you do wrong? Yeah. If everything was right, why are you asking the President Biden for a pardon?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I've never even heard until recently of a preemptive.
I didn't understand that either. So that means any president, you could do whatever you want with your family, which is what Biden did, Hunter Biden, and cover all his crime and his family, and people that do some preemptive pardon, and you cannot be persecuted for it. Bring it to justice.
I mean, I'm a student of the Constitution. I teach
it. I'm telling you.
And I'm a student.
So now legality. Trump could go do whatever he wants, and then at the end of that term, okay, he should have pardoned Paul Manafort and everybody else, but he didn't do that because he knows that on his mind, they didn't do nothing wrong.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Amania?
Oh, well, first, I'd like to say 1,500. That's what Biden is looking to pardon. I would just kind of think about this right now for our Black folks, for the Black folks listening, the people that has been affected by Joe Biden and the crime bills that he's written. How many
1994
of
crime
the
bill.
1994 crime bill, how many of those Black brothers and sisters who's rotting away in prison somewhere is he going to pardon because of the role that he played in sending them there because of small crimes that they committed, for drugs, for crack that they utilized, or things like that? But his son, Hunter Biden, the crackhead, who has been dabbling in this, what about those people? Is he going to pardon them because they're rotting away because of him? That's what I'd like to, for our friends Johnny and the other liberals out there. Can you guys talk to us about that? Are some of those Black men included in this 1,500, pardon that Joe Biden is looking to do for people?
I mean, he victim a generation.
Destroyed our community.
Yeah, destroyed our community. And this is what I understand about African American community. And they're still supporting this guy.
Yeah.
This is what I don't understand. He did more damage in the history.
He destroyed a whole generation.
Yeah.
A whole generation. You have a young man who went to jail at the age of 18, 19 for selling a couple of rocks, and now they're in jail for 40, 50, and 60 years. To juxtapose this, people ignore the fact that the Biden administration just put an 85-year-old man in St. Petersburg, who's the head of the Uhuru movement, in jail, saying that, he was colluding with the Russian government, which is nothing but a made-up lie. He's a nationalist.
Well, we're about to pay some bill. We're coming right back. When I come back, I'm going to play Mayor Adams out of New York audio tape. Okay? So go ahead. Take it. We're coming right back. Thank you. Hey, you got Dr. White dancing here, man. y'all watch. Go on that Facebook, and you can watch Amania and Dr. White doing this thing. He's in the mood.
Trump.
Yeah, they're doing the Trump dance here.
You're listening to Inspiration 1680 AM, WOKB Winter Garden, W2640F 100.7 FM Kissimmee, and around the world at WOKBradio.com. Inspiration 1680 AM and 100.7 FM Kissimmee.
The views and opinions of the following program is not necessarily those of WOKB, staff, and management of you.
Are you tired of feeling sick and tired? Did you know that all disease starts in the gut? Let Love Biome, the microbiome company, show you a better way. Your gut microbiome is the key to a better health. Introducing the Daily 3 system and a line of the best targeted probiotics in the world. This will help you lose weight and rebuild, rebalance, and restore your gut. Don't wait. Take control of your health today. Call 407-758-3870 to learn more and start your journey to a healthier you. Remember, this isn't medical advice. Plant life gives life. It's just a better way to feel your best. That number again is 407-758-3870. Are you tired of feeling sick and tired? Did you know that all disease starts in the gut? Let Love Biome, the microbiome company, show you a better way. Your gut microbiome is the key to a better health. Introducing the Daily 3 system and a line of the best targeted probiotics in the world. This will help you lose weight and rebuild, rebalance, and restore your gut. Don't wait. Take control of your health today. Call 407-758-3870 to learn more and start your journey to a healthier you. Remember, this isn't medical advice. Plant life gives life. It's just a better way to feel your best. That number again is 407-758-3870.
In your car, you could tune in to your radio. It's been this radio station been here a very long time, never changed. Is 1680 AM. Okay, so there's now. So if you want, you could participate on our show. You could call us at 407-894-1680. Once again, the phone number 407-894-1680. Just tell me how you feel and what you expect for the next 4 years, and if you're still bitter about this election, you know, if you're still angry, is you one of them angry liberals out there, or if you need some counseling, we got Dr. White here. We got Jeff. I see Roberto was on the screen, so don't know what happened. Did he fall off, or is it too hot for him?
There he is.
He's back. I was back.
You should know better than that, brother. You should know better than that. I can't fall off, man. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Roberto.
Good evening. So I know Roberto got a studio, so I hope everything is working in the studio.
Well, that's what I hope so. Can you guys hear me fine?
Go ahead, Roberto.
Yes, we hear you.
We hear you. Go ahead. You got the mic.
Dr. White, good evening. Voy, Amania,
evening,
thank you
sir.
for having me. Political Flashback. A lot of heavy topics today I saw in the lineup. I got to tell folks that Voy doesn't just show up on the microphone with his guests and start just talking. This is a man who loves to prepare. So before we even show up, we know what the topics are going to be, except as he's sitting in the studio, he's always digging for what the next liberal news media is putting out to go against it and wild up people. He takes great joy and pleasure in that, folks, just so you know.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, it's great to be here, guys. Even the last hour, I wanted to make sure I'm able to catch up with you guys. It's always a good time to have a great conversation with great people. Again, we might disagree, but at the end of the day, we respect and love one another. So good to be here.
Roberto, if anything that we are talking about, you want to do a recap, feel free. You got the mic.
No, I don't know if you guys addressed the big news for me today, and I think it's long overdue. President Trump basically winning Person of the Year, Time Person of the Year. I think normalizing some of this is good for America because, I mean, this is just my opinion here. I think if we've treated President Trump with a bit more of humanity and decency, I don't think he would have won the second time around. But the fact that they demonize that man so much, they make him look like the unicorn that the left wanted him to look like. I think that gave him so much more to really rally people around. So today was good to see that, again, we celebrate people that come back from behind. That's the American way. This is someone who was done. America, the world believed once he left the White House, the indictment and everything else that happened, well, you know what? He's going to go away for a long time. This is it. But no, this is the comeback of the century. I don't know any other politician that would have been able to come back the way President Trump came back. When you're talking about a Person of the Year, they have got to have that it factor. And I think this gentleman has it. He's a fighter. He's a winner. He's shown it. So I'm giving him his flowers today, man. Congratulations to President Trump.
And that's what I love about Roberto. He tell it like it is in his independent voice. And Roberto, one of the things now we have Christmas, one of the biggest holiday in the world approaching. We heard from some of our Democrat friends on Thanksgiving. What message would you have to people that's listening to you right now approaching one of the biggest holiday in our lifetime in humanity is Christmas? So what message would you have to people? We listen during the Thanksgiving. People don't want to have dinner, sit down with different point of view. If you voted for Donald Trump or husband, wife is still on strike. So as we at the end of this year and recognize Christmas, whatever your belief is here, but it is still a family tradition. And from the last 2 weeks ago, I mean, Thanksgiving, and I'm pretty sure I'm listening to some of the bloggers, what's happening around family members. So what message would you have to some coming in next Wednesday?
No, I mean, I think just putting in the concept of the holiday, that's another year that we were able to see out. It's not easy. There are so many folks that did not make it. A lot of our loved ones that perhaps that did not get to the end of the year. To have this is a blessing. So sometimes we want to focus on the things that don't matter that much, really. I mean, if you have health, you are the wealthiest human being on earth. So the fact that we have that, let's put aside some of our disagreement, especially when it comes to the end of the year, because again, we get to celebrate life. Oftentimes, we don't realize that some of those folks that we argue with, some of those folks that we write off because they voted for President Trump, because they voted for Kamala Harris, well, that might have been the last opportunity you had to talk to that person. So how silly you're gonna look come January 1st that, you know, this person is no longer on this earth. You're no longer gonna see that person walk through the door. So that's my message, really, acknowledging and understanding that time is precious and that sometimes you don't get to say, my bad, I'm sorry, or I wish I had done X, Y, Z. It's too late. So oftentimes, again, we can disagree, but we got to take some of the hatred out of the conversation. And I think that's the biggest issue in and around America and the world too, because today we've lost a lot of our empathy. Simply because I'm not Palestinian, I can't feel what the Palestinians are feeling. Simply because I'm not, you know, from Israel, when a deadly attack happened there, I can't feel what the Jews are feeling. Simply because I'm not Haitians, I don't care if there's another massacre of 150 Haitians. The world has got to come to understand empathy doesn't mean you got to feel every single aspect of my pain, but at least you need to see me as a human being. And to bring it back to President Trump, the empathy is, this is a guy who's an underdog when it comes to the comeback he's just amounted. I'm not talking about his financial wealth. I'm just saying from the political deathbed that he was in after he left the White House to come back the way he did, you can't afford but to be empathetic to what this man had survived over the last 4 years to now be heading back to the White House. So that's that empathy that allows me to speak freely, Voy, because I can see that aspect of President Trump as something that perhaps is in me. And if it's not in me, that's something that I would love to adopt even more, where I have a never say die attitude, and I'm always going to go to get back up no matter what happened in life. So that's why I look at it.
Absolutely. And that's what I look to. I promised you guys I was going to bring Eric Adam on a great interview, I think yesterday. Jeff, if the Bluetooth is on, we're ready to go.
And now we're hearing others are saying that Biden should pardon people because this would be difficult on their families and difficult on them, and they would have to pay high legal fees. Well, what about me? What about those mothers who are placed on FBI watch lists because they were standing up for their children?
Well, you said the other day you think that the justice system has been politicized. You believe that, don't you?
Yes, I do, with all my heart. But not only do I believe it, the president stated it. Donald Trump stated it. And countless others. You should look at some of these stories, what happened to people that stand up because of what they believe in. I believed in this city. We were going in the wrong direction with the migrants and asylum seekers. And I was very clear about that after 10 trips to Washington, D.C. I know what this crisis has done to our city long term. And New Yorkers are going to see the byproduct of $6.4 billion removed from our coffers.
So given the fact that you think it's been politicized, there's some people who think that President Trump might move to pardon some of the people who were involved in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Do you think that's something he should do because it's been politicized, or he should not do?
I think that's the determination of the president. I believe it's imperative that we seek justice in our country. And now we're hearing others are saying that Biden should pardon people because this would be difficult on their families and difficult on them, and they would have to pay
Dr. White,
highly.
Yes.
as you listen to Mayor Eric Adam, you know he was under attack under the Department of Justice and couple of his campaign worker. Once he exposed the immigration problem that was happening in New York, certainly he was attacked. We know the Tulsi Gabbard, who's now is going to be the director of national intelligence, was put on the FBI and terrorist watch list. Now, this is how the Democrat opened the Pandora box for lawfare and political persecution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as yesterday, as we talk about Director Ray from the FBI, Donald Trump put something out there as a great thing for America, that he no longer the FBI. And you were having a chat with Roberto on a private chat. Local prosecutor Monique Royale, when I don't know if Roberto knew that or not, when she was ousted by the governor, she did not have an easy turn power to Judge Bain on an easy transition. And I just want to make Roberto aware of that. Yes, there was an internal memo about Judge Bain not cooperate to have an easy transition for Monique Royale. Was that a payback, or was that was it fair? Is it fair? Now, yes, Judge Bain changed his mind. Okay, but Monique Royale did that.
It seems to me that Judge Baines, he put that memo out early in the morning, and he gave the impression that the Governor DeSantis, was going to be behind it. He argued within that memo that the suspension is still on, and that an election does not change this. That's what he argued. Later on that day, he backpedaled, pushing something differently. I believe that regardless to how he feels about Monique, that Baines has a great future ahead of him.
Absolutely.
I don't think he has to be that petty. I think that he should just say, "Okay, fine. I don't think Governor DeSantis is going to get involved in this thing. I think he has bigger issues that he wants to do, and I believe that he has put the Monique Warren and the Andrew Baines thing behind him. I don't think it's going to be a big issue, and I don't think that we should make it a big issue."
Roberto?
Voy, thanks, and excuse me. One thing that I will say to you, Voy, if you recall properly, when we were discussing the prospect of VP Harris as the Democratic candidate for president, one of the things that I kept referring to was Black folks in America, minorities in America, need to move away from this "I am first" mindset, simply to be first, to be running for office, or basically we need to start challenging the status quo, that if we're going to be the black face of something, we're just going to be a puppet. From the very first day that Judge Bain got into office, every single person, whether you're pro Bain or not, they always look at him as a proxy, to not use the word puppet, of Governor DeSantis.
Absolutely.
When you, as a black man in America, someone who played, who attended college on a scholarship to the University of Miami, pulled himself by the bootstrap, whatever you want to say, went to law school, you became a lawyer, the very first big job you get, it's not because you are elected, it's simply because the governor put you in position. When you, that same person, went through a primary, and everyone is saying how it's a shadow candidate that they provided, despite the fact that you lost, that person withdrew, then you ended up winning the nomination. When you, that same candidate, go to the general election, you lose almost by 10 points. The decent thing to have done was democracy triumph after you consult with the governor. You do not get to wake up in the morning as a black person, especially symbolism in this day and age. We know how much that matters. To tell me that you are not going to collaborate until the governor tells you to do so. You literally just say, "Okay, I am the governor's puppet. I'm here to do his bidding no matter how long it takes." That is why I said clearly then, and I still stand by it, that even if Judge Bain is running for dog catcher in any future election, the research, the upper research is going to be there to show that this guy cannot stand on his 2 feet. So whatever office he's seeking, who's his real handler? Not that we don't know that every single politicians out there, they have their own masters. That's just the game, unfortunately. But when you blatantly do so, the way Judge Bain just did it, I think he hurt his future. And I'm with Dr. White. I thought before this that he had a tremendous future in politics here. But now you just showed that you can't be trusted to actually stand on your 2 feet and then do the people's bidding. Because I don't care who you are, so long that this democracy stands, you will respect the will of the people. If you can't, why am I going to ever entertain you, whatever elections or office you seek in the future?
Yeah, and he's looking too petty. You see, we cannot allow that. And one of the things that this election has shown us with Trump, and that is that people have their interest, and we have our element of self-determinism. And Baines is showing us, and I like Baines as a person. I like him. I thought he was a fine fellow when I met him. But when he goes in this direction, it shows that he has no backbone, which means that he has no ability to think for himself. And in that, it also shows that his interest is not the people's interest, but is self-serving. And that's the wrong perspective to have. You see, so I like him, and we just pray for his maturity. And I think he can come back from this. With Monique, we don't know how she's going to do.
Can we say, because Roberto used the word puppet, Monique is funded by George Soros, the radical George Soros.
Absolutely.
So regardless, we all have masters in this game, Roberto.
As I mentioned to you in my thing, but the thing is, you do not have the luxury to make it so blatant. And that's the mistake that they made. Again, I think maybe I will. Really,
well, I disagree with both of you. I don't think that we all have masters. All right, God made us independent thinking people.
No. Dr. White, we're talking about the fact that in American politics, and we've seen the one person that probably.
I know what you're going to say. You're going to talk about the monetary factor.
Yeah.
But again, with that, if we're talking about developing a new concept of political thinking, we will not allow the money factor from others to dictate our policies, because if we do that, then we are, again, if I'm a Republican, that means I'm a puppet to that stream. If I'm a Democrat, that means I'm a puppet to that stream. We are members of an institution, but it doesn't mean that we are puppets to that institution.
Wholeheartedly agree, Dr. White. But from a reality standpoint, and that's what I was alluding to earlier, if we were to go back to that show, my advocacy is, when are we going to get Black candidates, Black politicians, minority politicians to not just want to be first and then give away their conscience in the process? If you're going to be elected for office, you need to have one boss. It's the people that elected you into that office.
Absolutely.
Masters. But unfortunately, that's not the reality that we see. Very often in America, before you even get elected, you're bought for and paid for by big interest lobbies, by the party bosses. And it's unfortunate, because those guys, they don't get to enact a single policy that is helpful to the people by the time they get in office.
But today's reality doesn't have to be tomorrow's reality.
Yes, sir. I agree.
All right. So we can change that if we have enough guts and the principality to do so. And I think we do.
Dr. White, I think that's going to be very tough.
It is tough.
When we're controlled by the lobbyists and the special interests who make the decision, who actually write the bills. Okay. So they the one who's funding some of these politicians and these politicians, and that's why they be able to pin us one another. Because it's about power. You know, not everybody like Donald Trump was able to when he run the first time, funded his own campaign. Not everybody would have, able to do that. So you look at some way, this political action committee, and they depend on certain candidate politician to serve them at that level.
And I think for me personally, I would love to see more actions, and I always said it on this show and beyond. We just need to remove some of the money in politics. I don't believe for a single second that corporations should be counted as people in terms of money they can donate. I don't believe that elections should be bought and paid for. There is no reason why a congressional race in America today should cost $1 million at the very least and upward of that. There's no reason why a state rep should cost the same amount. That is why a lot of people are jumping the state rep positions now, or the Senate races for the state of Florida, to go straight to a congressional district, because they have to spend the same amount of money anyway. How do you fix it? Personally, I think we need to put Americans, the people, back into politics. You want to qualify? This notion of you can present X amount of dollars, this and that. No, let the people decide. You need to start doing some door knocking. You need to start talking to your constituents. People are so far removed from, candidates are so far removed from the people and the constituents that they're supposed to represent. At the end of the day, they don't know what policy those people even want to see being enacted. So
well, hold on to see a second. I'm going to say something positive about Kamala Harris. All right. And that is, in her campaign, it showed us one thing. And I remember when she was soliciting for money, within a couple of days, she got so many African-American women. And I think in a couple of days, they raised millions of dollars.
80 million.
All right. That tells me that there is grassroots numbers of money out there. There's grassroots money there. We can tap into it. And so therefore, as she tapped into that, why can't we tap into it again? But under an argument that is right and good and needed for the American people. We do not have to go to the corporations. When we begin to run to the corporations, we become their slaves. The other day, I heard a Chinese diplomat, and he stated that when we allow somebody else to put rice in our bowl, we become a slave to the person who put the rice in that bowl. All right, and we don't have to be that. We can get the money on our own. We can organize on our own. We just have to change our way of thinking. And we, as people of Caribbean descent, for sure, if we know how to do it, because that's our heritage.
Absolutely. Amania, I'm going to move to entertainment, so let me get your final word on this, and because I know you plan to run for office one day.
She's going to be there. I think she's going to be the next mayor.
You and Roberto, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do Roberto. Roberto, I got to get him going.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm good, brother.
I will say this. I'm not gonna not say no to that. I believe that maybe one day that will happen. But before that day, I would like to talk about this, gentlemen. We do have a special election in our territory happening right now, District 6. This is the seat that President Trump removed Waltz from to serve in the cabinet. And so this is already a very busy race. We've got 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans looking at the special election. The primary happens January 28th, and then the election itself happens April 1st. So I have been tapped to maybe work on this campaign. But to your point, Dr. White, and also to Roberto's point, when I look at this election and the people working, getting ready to run for this race, it comes back to the same thing. We've got somebody that's already established, already got a whole bunch of endorsements. The lobbyist is already on board. And then I'm looking at my guy and I'm just like, dude.
The deck is stacked against you, right, Amania?
Yes. And I'm like, how are we going to do this? Because he's already been picked. Yeah. The endorsements have fallen out of the sky. Our friends, Corey Mills is already on board. Byron Donalds is on board. And this is not for my guy. And I'm just like, this thing is already done, And it goes again to what Dr. White was saying about, being able to tap into the grassroots to raise money for people who are not the establishment, those people who, who has a heart to serve, but they don't have the finances to do that. And so putting systems in place to be able to organize grassroots to raise these funds is really where we need to be. That way, these people are not tied to the lobbyists to do their bidding, but they do the people's bidding. And I understand that everybody is supposed to do the people's bidding, but actuality, like Roberto said, let's look at the reality of what's going on. Because when you look at these PACs and you look at where the money comes from, these large amounts of money, yes, it shouldn't cost $2 million to run a congressional race. It shouldn't cost, $500,000 to run a House seat race. But in actuality, that's what we're looking at. And so in order for true people to come across, they can never get there because they don't have the money, they don't have the endorsements, and they just don't have it. And so we really need to look at how the system is built and start to take at it little bit at a time, different areas, so we can really level the playing field for those people who are coming in fresh, who doesn't have those systems in place.
Will you tell us the names of the candidates?
Randy Fine, District 6. He served in the House legislature for about 8 years, I believe. And then he went and ran for Senate. And he just became senator-elect in the House in Florida, right? But he hasn't even started day one, Roberto. He hasn't started day one, and then he's abandoning that post. I was going through his Twitter feed today, and I'm like, wait a minute. This guy just got elected. He's senator-elect, but he's left this post that he hasn't even started to serve in to go and chase a bigger dream, right? But
Amania, hold on. You don't even need to hire me. Here's the ad that I have for you, right? It's very simple. What's his name again?
Randy
Fine. He's the
Randy Fine. He won't be fined by you. He will run to the next best job. Don't vote for him. Simple. That's absurd. I'm sorry. It's absurd. So you have these guys that are just career politicians, office chasing, career chasing. I don't believe representatives or elected officials should make a career out of it. Hence why the first Congress of the United States, I challenge people to go look the profession of these guys. Every single person had a different profession. That's what made this democracy a thriving democracy. We were not over-relying on people to go to DC for the next 30 years of their lives and make a career out of it. If you just got elected to the Florida Senate, you made a promise to those voters that voted for you, and there's a special election, not even for the full seat, for the full term, and you're already jumping on that? No, I'm sorry. I can't trust you. I mean, that's me if I'm a constituent.
And that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
Well,
you're right.
Amania, to your point, because there's also name recognition in politics.
That's true.
And one of the candidates has been very supportive of President Trump. He also put his endorsement behind him. So that's why you see the money
and who is that?
dropping. And I remember back in, I believe, 20 when Chief Val Demings ran for Congress. She was handpicked and selected.
Yeah.
And there were other candidates. And by the time, as soon as her name dropped, she had almost $800,000.
That's true.
In her campaign. So it happened in both sides. And that's why we have to be careful. Another example I'm giving you, the last election we have here, Debbie out of South Florida, who ran on the Democratic side for the Senate. I knew she was selected before she put her paper to run for office. So it happens. So how do you combat that in both parties? And you just got to leave it to the voters. To have smart voters like you and like Roberto to expose these things. I don't like it either. I don't. But it happened. If we got to be fair, both parties, they're doing it.
And that's what I'm referring to. And I'm not even looking at the party aspect. If we want to reclaim that democracy as the people, we need to put a cap to this. It's just that simple to me. And again, we understand name recognition, but if you're gonna have a fair race, people have to leave the stable at the same starting point, really. Because let's say, for example, just for the sake of argument, qualifying is, I don't know, 600 votes for that district. Okay, make it fair for these guys to go knock on doors. There's no such thing as you got to pay the qualifying fee to qualify. Let's make it about the people. Second, you can raise the limit, you can bring the limit down. We just simply need to remove the word corporation is people in terms of fundraising and money. PAC money has really diluted the democratic experience in America. Now, people will argue that, hey, that's just the way it is now. You got to live with it or suck it up. No. If we want, again, to stop corruption the way it has happened, not too many people are going to be a billionaire like President Trump and not just cave into whatever demand somebody has, or Mitt Romney's. People are succumb to whatever their buyers asking them. If I put forward $5 million of your $7 million campaign, you bet you that I'm going to come collecting at some point. That's just the nature of it, human nature. So if we are serious about it, the supervisor of election job, it's not just one where you organize elections only. We need to make sure that, again, we change some of those regulations, because, again, it's not to the benefit of the American people, I feel. And I feel very strongly about this.
Absolutely. But I'm going to be like a torpedo. It's approximately 6:36 p.m. So there's a couple of things in the news happened from last week. And I'm listening to all the media and the response from lawmakers. We know CEO Brian Thompson from United Healthcare CEO was gunned down by, Luigi Mangiano, who's the suspect. And I'm listening to his going through his manifesto and listen to the reaction of lawmakers and to the people respond. Dr. White, Brian Thompson, who was the CEO of healthcare, we know how strong the lobbyists, the insurance industry, and this guy actually had created an AI based on deny of a health coverage. Is it right? Because our community, the whole world is talking about it, and we have insurance. Luigi Mangiani already raised so much money for his defense. People say he's a hero. What do the healthcare and the insurance industry is learning from this? Should it have, when Barack Obama ran, credit to Bernie Sanders, wanted to have a universal plan? Should we go back to the drawing board? Even this president that we support, to look at healthcare in this country differently.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you live in a country, we're the world's wealthiest country, and we have millions of people who are uninsured or
hold on a second. And I'm basing on this guy who had created an AI to deny coverage.
Right. And it's wrong. I mean, we live in a country, again, whereby we have millions of people who are underinsured or uninsured. We have a person like Brian Thompson who makes $8 million. What's it, $8 or $80 million? $80 million a year. And he makes that on the suffering of millions of people. That is why Luigi Mangione is the underground hero of not only in the United States, but throughout the world. Because they see
why
him.
Would you say that? Because I mean, he took someone's life. I know.
I'm not saying that he did right, but he is. We have had this trend in the United States before, in the mid-19th century, when we had the great corporations and the great leaders like Rockefeller and several others who were controlling the industry and making billions for themselves. But while the American people suffered, there was a hostility against them. There were riots against them. There were wars against them. This has come up again. It's not that the guy is that we're praising his death. I'm not praising anyone's death, but there is a reason for this. And he has touched on the nerve and the sentiment of millions of American people who are dying, literally dying, because of somebody like this, who they see is a representative of this corporate entity that they can't even be sued. You can't even sue them.
Okay, hold on to
You
that.
can't even sue them.
Roberto, the radical left always against gun violence. Now they celebrate gunning down Brian Thompson. And what do you make out of this?
Voy, if you make that statement, I think, like I've seen a lot of the American media, I would say, my brother, you would be out of touch with what's truly going on there, because I don't think this is an issue we can pen as left or right. Because again, I'm always gonna go back to what we said last week. People are suffering.
Well, they're making an issue. I'm not making an issue. I'm just
I'm just saying, because it's not a left or right issue. And
I'm just debating because how this guy looking as a hero gunning down a healthcare CEO.
So you asked the question, I'll answer you. So here's the very first thing. For me personally, I always condone acts of violence. But Dr. White told you, and I think we need to get our head out of the sand, boy. People are hurting. When you have insurance companies proposing to cut some of the anesthesia pay that you get, where thereby, if you're going through surgery, the surgery is prolonged for 2 more hours, they might actually stop giving you anesthesia because your insurance company is not going to cover that, and you have to endure that pain and suffering through the surgery. Of course, people are going to be hurt about it. Meanwhile, those companies that we're talking about are making an asinine amount of profit while we are having the highest mortality rate in this country. Now, if you ask me, if you want to make it a real issue, again, it goes back to those corrupt politicians. Whether they're from the left or from the right, are they doing the bidding of the American people? It should never be handled in the streets. If all politicians were doing their job, they would not be influenced by the lobbyists that represent the health insurance industry. It is absurd that we have the highest cost of healthcare around the globe, yet some of the lowest care for our people. Your job as a politician is to find that happy median where, yes, corporations can still make their money. Believe it or not, Voy, I'm a corporate, but I always tell people I'm a corporate kind of guy with a conscience. I love to make my money. I'm American. I'm not a communist. But at the end of the day, you got to have some kind of conscience behind it. If you are actually making profit hands over fist, you don't have to deny coverage the way these guys have been denied coverage to the American people. You don't have to actually tell people that you have the pre-existing condition. Meanwhile, that folk was with you for a whole year before you decided all of a sudden they have a precondition that you can't cover. You are literally condemning people's family to die. So if you see a lack of empathy from a lot of people, again, it's not a left or right issue. It's simply a lot of Americans are fed up for it. But we are not addressing that. I've seen the media, the national media, miss the mark on this. Where it's how could you celebrate violence? It is not about that. A lot of us are pacifists, whereas we don't want violence and anything else. But it's the hypocrisy that we need to address. Because you have an industry that's literally telling you about your loved one. If you had, better insurance, better coverage, if you paid more, well, maybe we would have covered that. We can't cover it. You're out of network, you're out of this, you're out of that. Now your family member, you got to prepare the burial for them. So when something like that happened, as sad as it is, as regrettable as it is, people are taking the same approach. Well, maybe he should have hired bodyguards, which, by the way, I think that was silly. That's something that we could address, because if you're an executive of one of the most hated industries in America, why are you walking down the streets of New York alone? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I don't know about that, because before Trump became this politician, he walked down Fifth Avenue.
No. Brother, that's what I'm saying to you. When you have, this guy have had numerous threats made against him.
All
the
right.
healthcare industry is one of those, I'm sorry to use the language, that's in the bullseye. If you're making that kind of money, and right now all of them are hiring executive protection. All of them are making sure that they have appropriate details to take care of them. That's what I meant by that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But and to your point, Amania, I'm going to have you on. Should we take, when I look at the whole list, what this guy was doing, that should be an open eye for us. How many other insurance company out there using AI to deny people coverage? So should this system be overhauled and take it out of the private sector? Just like Donald Trump said, well, you know, the tuition money, we should take the middleman out of it. Should we have government facility, to have a universal system in America so we could have better coverage? To your point, Roberto. Go ahead, Amania.
Well, I just want to add to that and just say condolences to that man's family. When I first heard it, before all of this came out about, you know, him being shot or killed because of we're having a conversation right now that we wouldn't have had before. So I want to say that it's good to have this conversation right now, because this isn't a reality that is happening to Americans and to people. For somebody like myself who, you know, I had health insurance for years and years and years and never used it. And then, you know, the day that it went away, like 2 weeks later, I needed it and it was gone. And all that money I poured in paying, you know, now I had none. And so that kind of leaves a bitter taste in your mouth when you say, I've paid so much into the system and then I need it, and then I can't get the services that I need because of whatever reason. So yes, I think that we need to look at the whole thing and maybe dismantle it and find another way in, because people are suffering and they are having problems. Like the example Roberto made of, you know, you're in the middle of surgery, right, and the insurance say, you know, no more. And so what are the doctors going to do? We're going to just leave it in the middle? You're going to suffer in pain while they've got you wide open? I mean, it's crazy that it's crazy, the whole idea of how this setup is. So yes, maybe that's something Donald Trump and RFK Jr. and they need to be looking at and saying, hey, we need to look at this in a different way. Maybe we need to put somebody in charge of this particular thing because of this murder, and just start to figure out another way to tackle this, because people are suffering, people are sick and dying. And it's because a lot of times they can't afford to pay the copays. They can't afford to pay these things because it's way too high, just like the medications.
You're absolutely correct. We're in the final. We got about 7 more minutes. And our last point here, the FAA extended Haiti flight restriction bearing most flight out of Haiti until March. Roberto, I was having a conversation with him this weekend on Saturday, and that's why I had put that on the note. When I look at what's been going on in Syria, what's been going on in Israel, flight is open. And you look at, I know American Airlines said they were ready to go back next month, but the FAA put another restriction until March to what's going on. And this is when we go meet Marco Rubio. And I'm gonna bring this up,
right? And
also I have let me play a video for you guys, because this is, I know Roberto touched on that with me on Saturday, and that's both airport flight, Port-au-Prince and Cap Haitian, but Cap Haitian is not open to American Airlines or Spirit.
FAA just extended its ban on all U.S. airlines flying to and from Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. This was a 30-day ban, but now it's been extended to March.
Okay, let me try it again.
The FAA just extended its ban on all U.S. airlines flying to and from Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. This was a 30-day ban, but now it's been extended to March 2025. This does not include the international airport in Cap Haitien, which will remain open. Now, since the U.S. government is banning and restricting the flow of things from the U.S. to Haiti, allow me to suggest that they focus on American ports, restrict the flow of guns from the U.S. to Haiti. Haiti does not manufacture guns or ammunition. 80 to 90% of the guns being used by the gangs in Haiti come directly from Florida, Miami, and Port Everglades. And this isn't just a Haiti problem. 90% of the guns being used in the Caribbean were bought in the US and then smuggled into the region. The most effective way to address instability in Haiti is to stop the flow of these weapons from the US. Because without ammunition, these gangs are stripped of their power. They're left with just metal in their hands. Pass legislation that will reduce the illicit trafficking of guns from the US to Haiti. Take the millions of dollars you have reserved for foreign militaries to enter into Haiti and instead invest it in equipment that'll help you to properly check the containers that are leaving these Florida ports and trace the weapons that have been found in Haiti to their original owner to help figure out who all is playing a role in this system. Don't just stop aircrafts from entering into Haiti, also stop the continuous flow of weapons entering into the country.
Roberto, I'm going to take you on that. I remember under Eric Holder, the Attorney General, Eric Holder, there was a float of guns out of Mexico. The program was called Fast and Furious, and we were able to trace, and our port is open, but our airline is closed. Roberto?
Voy, excuse me. I know we're talking about Fast and Furious, Mexico. To me, completely different, right? The United States of America share a land border with Mexico, and even then, it was on the Mexican authority, as they have Ciudad Juarez, that was a failed city, and Mexico was descending into anarchy. Even then, it was still on them to ensure they protected the sovereignty of their borders. And I'm going to be very critical of my Haitian brothers and sisters, to include, I think that was Gertrude on the video.
Yeah.
Haitians at some point need to wake up and stop blaming everybody for all their aches and all their headaches. At some point, we need to take accountability for the mess that we've created and the mess we continue to create. Haiti's biggest issue is corruption. Until we get rid of corruption, we're still going to have that issue. Yes, there's foreign interference. Yes, the U.S. could do more to stop the influx of weapons. Yes, the FAA had no business extending the ban. We can't argue all that, but let's face facts and reality. The U.S. today has one policy that they need to ensure from a national security standpoint when it comes to Haiti, is to ensure that we don't have a mass exodus of Haitians to the United States of America. What is the best way to do that? The FAA putting that ban on Port-au-Prince for flights not to come in is likely to prevent the doctors, the lawyers, and everybody else that was trying to leave Haiti before President Trump take office in January. From a policy standpoint, I can guarantee you that weighted in heavily into why the FAA extended that ban. But here's the thing that I have an issue with when it comes to my fellow Haitians. Why are we crying? The ban is on U.S. airlines. We have one Haitian airline today, which is Sunrise Airways. If we're serious about this, why don't we invest in actually 2 more airlines and take over the market and push American Airlines out of the market completely? So
I agree with you, Alberto. I think
as a last point, Dr. White, I'm gonna give it to you because I know we're short on time. My thing is, Voy, at some point, we need to wake up, stop blaming others, and take accountability for our country. President Trump mentioned nationalism. When are Haitians gonna start putting Haiti first and not worry about everybody else out there?
What I want to I want to say that that ad was disingenuous. I mean, it gives the impression that if you stop all the guns, Haiti would be a better place. We have a lot more issues there. It's an infrastructure problem, and the whole element of banning flights there is to give the impression that Haiti is a failed state, and if it's a failed state, it gives the country, the outside countries, the larger countries, the opportunity to go in and to create a dynamic of control over Haiti. And we cannot have this. Once you build up the infrastructure, then you have a better Haiti, a better society. If that's not done, nothing happens.
Amania, last word. Amania?
Yeah, all right. Real quick, I do agree that Haiti needs to do just that, take responsibility. I agree, nationalism, and stop crying about it and do something, because if we already have these things in place, it's just a matter of organizing and pushing the other guy out and stand on our own too. We already have the infrastructure to do so. So yeah, stop blaming other people and just get it.
Right on.
Well, thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Amania. Thank you, Dr. White. Thank you, Jeff. Lady D's already in the studio ready. Don't forget to check my good friend Don Miller on his podcast, and also here on Tuesday with Glenn from 12 to 2. And I'll be back on Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Next Thursday, I won't be here, but Dr. White, I don't know if Roberto and Amania is available, so they could conduct the show. So have a good night. Thank you, Roberto. I'll see you. I'll talk to you. Love you, brother. Love you, my sister, Amania. Love you, my man. Dr. White, thank you so much. Time is out of here. We're fired. Lady D in the house. Oh, yeah.